You could be anywhere doing anything, but you're hanging out with us. And we appreciate that. So, wherever you're listening and watching, and however you're listening and watching, we appreciate you guys for listening and for watching. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Alex Goodwin is my name. You can follow me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, that's at Alex Goodwin TSM on Twitter. That's T as in tacos, S as in sangria, M as in margaritas. Kennedy Miller.
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
And pretty good, pretty good. Where can the folks find you on Twitter?
Follow me on Twitter at _Kennedy Miller_. Again, that's _Kennedy Miller_.
All right, all right. And joining us here on the show, friend of the show. Matter of fact, we can't say friend of the show, Ken, because he's been on so many times on our live streams, our podcast throughout the years. This is family from SinLawPreps.com. The big homie, Lamar Gafford. Lamar, how you doing today, dog?
Man, I'm doing pretty good right now. I'm feeling pretty great. I got a team in the conference finals. Had to bust it out. Life's good, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, Lamar, going to that, we can start there. I said M as in margaritas. Ken, I should have said M as in Mavericks, or T as in Timberwolves, because those two teams are in the Western Conference Finals. So, Ken, that series kicks off tomorrow evening. Just looking at the matchups before a game has been played, who do you give the early edge to?
Man, I think this is going to be a very I'm excited. I think it's going to be a very entertaining series. I think it's going to be a different series than either of those teams played in the last round. I know Lamar's going to get on me, but I'm going to go with Minnesota in 6 for now. Very competitive 6 games. I think Luka and Kyrie are amazing. They're going to obviously provide a different dynamic than what Jokic presented in the last series for Minnesota. But I think that the length that Minnesota has and how they are able to disrupt things, I think ultimately, along with Luka not fully being 100%, I think will give Minnesota the edge. Dallas is going to be able to disrupt them a little bit because they are more athletic than Denver. They're more athletic than Denver was at the rim. But I think that Anthony Edwards is taking that next step. He's becoming in that upper echelon where Luka already is, right? He's becoming in that echelon with those guys of being tier 1 superstars in the league. And I think that their size is going to present a tough matchup for Dallas, especially with Karl at the 4. PJ Washington, can hold his own. I think Karl will have that advantage. And I think the Minnesota's going to take it.
Lamar, what you got?
I got to go with the Mavs at 7, I feel like, in this series. But I think this is going to be a fun, entertaining series because, right now, a lot of people keep on saying, the future's now, and we got 2 of the bright young stars of the future playing against each other for the right to go to the NBA Finals. You got Ant right now, who's basically just killing it out there. You see what he's been able to do and the unhingedness of what he's been able to be like and everything else like that. Like, I love his game. I love the smack talk. I love everything that he brings a whole lot of energy. And then, of course, you have with Luka, where obviously he's been, a star pretty much getting there. And a lot of people have been wondering, okay, when are you going to get there? When are you going to get to the finals? When are you going to get to the finals? And right now you have, good stars, good role players, good number 2 guys here. I think this is going to make a series that's going to be very exciting. I know we talked about, I know a lot of people have been talking about here, Timberwolves, they basically had owned the season series 3-1, but most of that was, before the trade deadline. And of course, Kyrie only played 1 game in that whole thing. So basically, this is just a wipe the slate clean. We don't know what we're going to get. It's just going to be very exciting. I'm interested in seeing how these 2 teams match up. and especially with the defenses, because we know what Minnesota could bring defensively, but Dallas, ever since they made the trade for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, they have really shored up their defense as well.
And I think for me, Ken, I think we talked about this like off air. And I think I told you that the way this Dallas team is constructed, this reminds me of the best Houston Rockets team that with James Harden, that 2017-18 team, that first year where they had Chris Paul, where they made it to the conference finals and then they missed 27 threes in a row. But it's like, all right, you have two guys, ball dominant guys who they're gonna play the pick and roll, hunt for their switch. Everybody else is 3-and-D guys, and they've got a big who can rim run and rebound, right? Same exact type of setup. I think for me with Minnesota, the question is, well, first I just got to say it is shocking Minnesota's here, right? Like, let's just acknowledge the fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves are in the conference finals, and that it is not an insane thing to pick them to win the whole damn thing, right? And I think the whole reason they are here and we are here talking about them, Anthony Edwards, because I think I can't say enough about what they did in Game 7. They walked the defending champions down in their spot, down 20 in the third. Didn't panic, didn't get shook, and they just kept it pushing, walked them down. Won the game ultimately fairly comfortably. That is a testament. You know how they always say you take on the personality of your leader?
Yep.
That's exactly what that was to me. And it is very obvious the way Anthony Edwards talks to them dudes. This is his team. I know y'all be seeing him yelling at Carl, telling Carl to shut the hell up and get back and play some defense. Right? Stop. Yes. And stop fouling. You're cleaning it up a whole lot. But this is Anthony Edwards' basketball team, because in years past, let them get down 20 under Carl's leadership. It's a wrap. Right? When I saw them get down 20, I said, man, I got to go to the bathroom. I got to go wash the dishes right quick because this game's over, right? Because, again, the last 10 years with the Timberwolves, who's the guy we think about?
Are you talking about Karl Anthony Towns or when Jimmy Butler came through there?
Oh, Carl. Carl's the guy you think about, right? Carl's the guy at the head of the ship. It's like, and if Carl's the head of the ship's about to crash at some point.
But I gotta give him credit. I got to give Carl credit.
Yeah, Carl, he came to play. And the thing was going to be, if they lost in Game 7, because Ant-Man did not play particularly well. He didn't have one of his games, but Carl was there. There Carl was. And it's wild to think about a dude that talented being the number 2 guy, but maybe he does need to be, the number 2. This is, I feel like, better suits him.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, no, but I mean, like, I think it's one of those things for me with Carl is Carl has the talent to be the number 1. And when Carl finally does it and like lives up to what we think he should be or should have been several years ago, it's almost like we're like, all right, Carl, good job. We're kind of begrudging with it. You know what I'm saying? And because I feel like for a lot of people, me included, it's like I felt like Carl should be, I don't know if the word is better than this, right? But you just want him to be, how much talent and how much potential this dude has and had. You're like, do that every night. Be that. And so when you see Carl finally do it, you're like, damn it, Carl. Good job. Thank you, Carl. And I think for the Mavs, Minnesota's going to be a tough matchup because they got dudes, Alexander Walker, Ant-Man, Gobert, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, dudes that are long and can all switch. So for me, is Luka healthy? And can Luka be healthy enough to be the best player on the floor? Because I think in order, whichever team wins, their best player, they'll win because their best player was the best player on the floor, right? If the Mavs win, it's because Luka was the guy. It was the best player in this series. If the Timberwolves win, it's because Anthony Edwards was the best player in this series. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I think think Carl gets a lot of. I think Jimmy Butler brought a lot of flack on Karl Anthony Towns, and it does not help like how his voice gets very high in some of these interviews. Like, so it really goes with the soft narrative, and obviously we've had our jokes about Carl on this show, and then I don't know who came up with the big purr thing, but
I think he did.
Yeah, that didn't help. That didn't help. But like we said, and then Gobert gets traded, which 4-time defense player of the year, and we just remember him from getting put in the headlock by Draymond Green a couple of months ago. You know what I mean? Like, and we have so many footages of Gobert like not looking like a defensive player of the year that like they just get labeled as this soft team because it's so easy to label them that. But then, like you just described, you start naming these dudes. Hey, like, man, these dudes are big, and like this is a problem. And where the league is heading, or where it looks like it's to be heading, is like you get a big man, and then you got to get a dominant four that can create matchup problems, like Denver had with Aaron Gordon. Dallas just got with PJ Washington, right? Carl now playing that forward position for Minnesota, right, to cause a mismatch because Denver was trying to put Aaron Gordon on Anthony Edwards. So that leaves Karl Anthony Towns with either Michael Porter or KCP, like somewhere where he has a size mismatch. And so you got to give credit to Carl. Like, he came out, especially the game 7, because, I think Ant did a lot of stuff in the second half that won't show up on the box score, especially with him getting trapped and making the right reads. But he was 6 for 24. And so some of that was Carl putting his head down and getting to the rim and finishing.
That has been what I've wanted to see Carl do. Don't stand out in the 3-point line. Get your ass in the post. Go handle some people, Carl. Thank you. And I think one of the other problems Carl has is 2 things, right? First, his name is Carl. I don't think that helps him very much. I think if his name was Chandre or Deshaun or maybe something like that, we might, maybe it's that. And then do you remember the time when him and Joel Embiid got into it?
Oh,
and
yes.
Embiid put him in the crippler crossface and Cat was tapping out like this was
Friday
Night SmackDown.
And the thing that kills me, sorry, is he got Jordan Woods.
Oh,
like
man.
You get Jordan Woods, you get held to
man.
a different standard. You get held to a different standard. Like, I forget you the number 1 pick. You getting Jordan Woods. Jordan Woods out there watching me. I'm trying to get 25 and 12 every night.
25, try 45. Look, I would be putting the video game numbers. I'd be Wilt Chamberlain. Boy, it would look like, how them videos you see of like Wilt Chamberlain and it's the little white guys with like 6'1" trying to defend it. It would look like that, boy. One of the homies in the comment section, I don't know if y'all can see it on the screen, he said, Cat Dominican, you got to forgive him. He don't know how to act normal.
I forgot Cat was Dominican. I forgot. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense too.
But I think they're for me right now, I'm gonna go Minnesota I'm gonna say 7. I'm gonna say Minnesota in a tough 7 games. Just because I think, we got another commenter. This Mike says Carl acts worse than LeBron. And that is so absolutely true. I think it also doesn't help that when Carl gets to complaining, he starts.
Oh, yeah.
And Karl Anthony Towns, he looked like the type of dude to when he gets really angry, his nose start bleeding for no reason.
No, the one that killed me was like when he was like trying to talk like Kobe in that post-game press conference. Like his voice got like unnaturally deep. Like, we just gotta keep going. We got. I'm like, yo, Carl, this is not you, bro. Like, you're making too much money to not be yourself. Just be yourself, man.
I mean,
okay.
Think about this. Maybe he went to the Russell Wilson School of Dork, right? Because Russell Wilson got all them different voices too.
And I saw something on Twitter. They call Anthony Edwards the Wizard of Oz because he gave Carl a heart and Rudy Gobert some courage. Dog, that's I'm being so serious. I knew that game was over and Rudy Gobert hit that turnaround shot.
Yes.
When Rudy Gobert, and it was like 5 minutes left. When he hit that fadeaway, I said, "There's no way. There's no way Denver's winning. There's no way."
Man, and I want to talk about Denver briefly, man. In all my years of watching basketball, I don't think I've ever seen a team like a defending champion have a game 7 in their house. They're up 20 and it fall apart like that. Like, that's just me. Lamar, your reference point is a little bit further than ours. Have you ever seen something like that in a game 7?
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, usually in that moment, we always see the champions rise to the top. Basically, they normally hold serve. If they lose, I mean, it's by 1 to 5 points, something like that. But to see them basically give away a 20-point lead at home to a team that, okay, you had their number last year. And of course, like you said, a lot of people said that they gave them their toughest matchup last year. Good. But for that to happen, that just we don't see that really happen that much. And I think in the point too, I mean, and I know we're going to be very hard on Jokic and all that stuff, even though he had an incredible game too. I also felt like he kind of settled a little bit as well. And those threes weren't falling.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is he still had 32, 18, and 7. It's like, what more can you ask for, pretty much?
He looked tired at the end of that game. Like, that's why I think he was settling. I think the entire team, like, their legs looked dead. Like, they looked like they were moving through mud. They looked flat out exhausted, and I think, Ken, I think we talked about it a few days ago. It makes you appreciate what those Kobe and Shaq Lakers were able to do. Those Spurs teams were able to do all those years. The Warriors, LeBron, and whatever team he was playing for in the Eastern Conference, of just being able to get there and stay there consistently, right? We talked about it on the last show, of this thought that once you get there, get over that hump, you stay there, right? Because I feel like over the last 20 years, that's kind of what happened. But I think, what did they say? This is the 6th year in a row where the defending champion hadn't made it past the second round.
Yep, and it'll be a new champion.
But this is what people said they wanted. People said they wanted parity. People said they wanted everybody to have a shot. And I think everybody's got a shot simply because the league is just so doggone deep.
Oh,
the league
yeah.
is so deep now, to where a team that was a 3 seed last year, Sacramento, they ain't make the playoffs this year.
Yep. And it's so many moving pieces, right? I think that's really what adds to, like, the parity. Like, you talk about those teams, like, you could pencil in Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan are going to be with the Spurs, right? Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire, Dirk Nowitzki and his crew, right? LeBron and his crew. And then when he left, LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh were there like 5 years. With these dudes, Donovan Mitchell is probably going to ask for a trade this summer. Like, I mean, Donovan Mitchell ain't no top 5, top 10 player, but depending on where he goes, can change the pendulum on some things, right? That's kind of how this thing started. Like, LeBron is the last person or on the last team to go to multiple finals appearances. That summer, Kawhi asked for a trade. Goes to Toronto, wins the championship. The next summer, the Lakers get Anthony Davis, win a championship, right? The next summer, Bucks get Drew Holiday, win a championship, right? Like, all of these, like, moving pieces always occur, like, now. Whereas back then, it was so many teams, like, standing pat, maybe just adding minor pieces here and there, and just kind of building. But now the league is so different. And, man, the Western Conference is legit. Like, and we're talking about the teams that's in the playoffs. Like, if John Morant don't tote that gun, Memphis would have been a playoff team, right?
Memphis gonna be hell next year.
This is the worst that Wembanyama's ever going to be. So who knows how good the Spurs are going to be? The Rock is going to be better, right? So, like, it's so much parity, so tough to go back to back, to be back in the finals, because you couldn't have told me that Denver wasn't going to make it back to the finals. At least make it back to the finals.
And I think that is such a fair point, because now you have me thinking about this Boston series, right? And Boston's playing Indiana right now. We got one of the fan questions by asked who we got, Celtics or the Pacers. I got the Celtics. If the Celtics don't win, they have to fire everybody.
Oh my gosh,
And
they have to get rid of everybody.
everybody got to go because the Celtics have made the conference finals 6 times in 8 years.
Yep.
Almost kind of, it makes me feel like the Philadelphia Eagles in like the late 90s to the early to mid 2000s, where they kept going to the conference title game, kept going, only made it to the Super Bowl once in that time span. If they go to 6, if they don't win this time, this will be 6 trips to the conference finals in 8 years and only 1 trip to the NBA finals. They've had 3 head coaches in this period: Brad Stevens, Mr. Steal Your Girl, Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla. They've moved everything else around, moved some of the players around except Brown and Tatum. If this don't work this year, if they don't make it to the finals and win a title, everybody has to go.
Keyword, and win a title. Well, key phrase, and win a title. Like, they should make it to the finals. This is one of the easiest runs that any team has ever been on. And I don't want to hate on them, right? But this is one of the easiest runs that any team has ever been on to go to the finals of that magnitude, right? They win 60-some games. They're playing the Heat without Jimmy Butler. They play the Cavs and Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen just kind of give up midway through. They don't see a healthy Embiid. They don't see Giannis. They don't see a healthy Jimmy Butler. All the teams that could really give them some type of good series, they don't see. And they see the Indiana Pacers, who, like, they're a fun team, but like, really? Like, seriously, think about this. Not even just the 8, right? Take the 2 play-in teams, 2 in the West. How many of those teams in the West do you think Indiana would win in the series against? Out of the 10 teams that made it to the playoffs in the West, / play-in.
They beat Golden State.
Possibly.
No, I think they beat Golden State.
Yeah.
I think they beat Golden State. Look, at that point, this Golden State team is just Steph, what's left of Klay Thompson, and that attack dog Draymond. They beat Golden State, but past that, do the Pelicans have Zion in this scenario?
Oh, that's a good point. Well, yeah, Zion was out. So, yeah, they might beat the Pelicans. So, the Pelicans,
that, nobody.
Might beat the Pelicans.
Pelicans and the Warriors. But, like, come on. Seriously? Like,
yeah.
Fun team, but if the Celtics do not win, and then, like, they're not playing the Warriors now, and I'll let Lamar talk after this because I've talked too much. But they're not playing the Warriors now. They're not playing like a team that's already like a dynasty and have guys that already have championship experience. Anybody that they play, this will be their first time. So they should be the favorite. But if Anthony Edwards comes in there and beats them, or Luka and Kyrie come in there and beat them, Jaylen Brown got to go. I don't think you fired Joe Mazzulla, but it's got to be major changes. They are the one team that has stayed a constant throughout all this like change that's happened. Got minor pieces, right? Just picked up Jrue Holiday, one of their most, and Porzingis, one of the most significant pieces. But you got to blow it up, man, if this doesn't work.
Lamar, what you got?
Yeah, pretty much that has to be the case too. And I'll even add, I mean, I think if you had the Pacers and Kings, that would be a fun series, but I still would probably pick the Kings to end that one. But I mean, the Pacers is a nice story. It's a very nice story. I mean, I see in the chat right here, of course, we're talking about they made it to the in-season tournament and made it all the way to the finals. And that really helped them out, I feel like, in this case. But I think they've been also on the good side of a lot of things. They had to play the Bucks where you didn't have Giannis. Correct. And you had Dame out for a couple of games. Now you get past them, and then of course now you get the Knicks where the Knicks in 5 games, looked like they were the better team, but then next thing you know, Tibbs basically turned them to all the dust, but pretty much in this case where Brunson is hurting in game 7, and I don't want to rain on their parade because that is a fun young team. Halliburton is very nice, even though he has kind of regressed a little bit from the hot start that he's had this season. The pickup for Siakam has really helped them out a good bit. And, of course, Miles Turner, which we've been talking about in trade talks and all this stuff. He's still with this team. Whatever reason, he's still with this team and stuff. But I think that this is the dead end for them. I mean, it's a nice season. Congratulations. You made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. A lot of people probably wouldn't even thought that you would have made it this far. But I just think that they're going to run up against a veteran team that has been there, that knows what it is. I'm not going to say sweep. I think Indiana probably gives the Fighters chance, and Indianapolis probably gets one game there. But I definitely will say Celtics in 5. Celtics in 5. They got to take them in 5. I feel like in this case because even without Porzingis, like you have a veteran lineup with Tatum, Brown, Drew, Derek White, all those guys that are itching to get back to the finals, and they're itching to prove that last year was a fluke that should not have happened. You have to have pride about yourself in this case if you're the Celtics.
I was gonna Lamar, the way you talked about the Indiana Pacers, you talked about them like they were like Virginia military, and they've made it all the way to the Sweet 16. Right? I just keep thinking about that, Michael Irvin. Nobody believes in you. Don't let nobody come in your house, take your meal. I'm just saying. But like to briefly talk about the New York Knicks. Tom Thibodeau did it again. He ran them boys down again. I saw a tweet recently that said, giving Tom Thibodeau OG Anunoby is like giving a pothead heroin. He ain't going to be able to control himself. And sure enough, he ran OG into the ground. And they looked exhausted too. And it sucked because I ain't gonna lie, I wanted it for the Knicks fans, but you wanted it. You know what I'm saying? And I think people always say the NBA script, the NBA sports is rigged. What did Arian Foster say?
Can't be.
Can't be. Because there ain't no way they'd write the script for the Knicks to be sorry for 35, 40 years.
Come on. Not even a finals appearance. Well, they may won, 99? But
99 against the Spurs, yeah.
Not even a finals appearance. Yeah. Like, they got their Game 7 in Madison Square Garden, and they lose to Indiana.
Get washed.
To potentially play against Boston in a conference finals. Like, that's the moneymaker right there. You know how much money they would have made off of that?
Yeah.
Like, Tom Tibbs he's killing me, dude.
Hey,
like,
kid, they should have sent Earl Hebner and Charles Robinson and them WWE referees from 1999 and 2000 to go ref the game. You know the ones. Look, Triple H is always look. Look, ref never sees the cheating going on.
Never sees it. Oh my! The Knicks, man, they need another score. Like, you know, if I'm them, I'm trying to get Paul George, right? I'm trying to get another wing scorer that can help out Jalen Brunson. Because I mean, the defensive stuff, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, especially down series like that, can you put the ball in the bucket? And you know, would they have won? You know, with everybody healthy, I think so. But it was still it's still the same need. Because they got to get rid of that bull in the china shop. He would have helped against Indiana, but they know how I feel about Randall. I just saw Mark in the comment, bring back Big Randall. No, trade Big Randall. Trade Big Back Randall. Trade him. Like, they got to get somebody next to Jalen Brunson because dude got game. Like, and clearly Tibbs has found his heroin shots in OG and Josh Hart. Like, I think they gave OG Anunoby a horse tranquilizer. I don't know if he would have been able to spell his last name before that game, the way he was looking on the bench. Like, that man did not look fit for anything. And they brought him out there. Josh Hart, his ab probably is torn, and he's out there trying to play. Like, it always happens. Like, and Tibbs is like, oh, it happens with every team. No, it happens with your teams.
Yes.
It happens with your teams. Derrick Rose, I think that was Fred Hoiberg's team. I know Jimmy Butler got an injury one time. Like, it always happens. The Tom Thibodeau era, I sent it to Alex the other day. Somebody posted it. They exceed expectations. They play hard. They get the expectations. Tibbs finds a star that he runs into the ground. The star gets hurt. They fail to live up to expectations. He's fired. It always happens.
We're at step 3 right now too, because next year they're gonna have
They're
expectations.
gonna have expectations.
And look, they're gonna have to find. Look, OG is like when OG got hurt. He's probably like, thank God. He's like, I can't keep going out here like this. And here comes Tibbs. Get your ass. Look, get up. Get your ass up. You're going again.
His eyes were shifting so much from side to side on that bench before the game.
Bro, why did he look like Bubbles from The Wire? He was so. I'm like, can somebody get him some help?
They did some unspeakable acts in that training room before that game to get him ready.
You think they pulled some Tyrod Taylor stuff?
Yes. And he was still limping up the floor like, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? Like, come on. And it would have been like Lamar said, I don't want to rain on the Pacers parade, right? They're a fun story. They're a young team. They play really fast, right? But this would have been a much better series if they had played New York, right? Even if some of those players were hurt, right? Because or high, right? It still would have been a much better series than what I anticipate. Because I think Indiana might win game 3, the first game back in Indiana. But other than that, like, I don't see this being a series.
Bro, this is one of those series, and I think I felt this way about the Celtics all season. Like, they win, how many games they won? 64, 65, something like that?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I don't care, right? The playoffs start, it's like, oh, no Jimmy Butler, no, okay, I don't care. This last year's against Cleveland, okay, I don't care, right? Like, it's just kind of been like, all right, so y'all go into the finals, y'all gonna win it or not? Like, that's it. Like, that's it. That's all. I don't care about the rest of this here. And at this point for them, I want to be like, what could Indiana do to win this series? Would they have to go out on the court with 6 players?
Man, they play really fast, right? So, like, they got to try and not get Boston set up in their half-court defense. But Boston is really, like, they're ranked really high in transition defense for the playoffs. But that's Indiana's really only way is if they can keep getting out in transition early, get a lot of pick and pops with Miles Turner. But, at the end of the day, it's just guys that make shots. Now, obviously, I say this, right? And they were down 12-0, and now they're down 3. Like, they're playing well, but is it sustainable? And I don't think it is.
What I'm thinking about right now, Lamar, I'm gonna go to you here in a hot second, is because this playoff run, it hasn't been tough for Boston at all. It hasn't been, right? So when it gets tough, either this round or presumably in the finals, are they gonna resort back to the bad habits that they've had?
Yes.
Right? If for Jason Tatum, bad habits I'm talking about is taking horrendous shots. Because all these years I've been watching Jason Tatum, and I'm like, what is your go-to move? And it's like some fall away step back with a hand in his face from 30 feet. And it's like, this is horrendous. You've been taking bad advice. And I think at this point, it's been long enough to where I feel like we can say the Mamba mentality might not be good advice. It might not have been the best advice for Kobe because Kobe was taking bad shots, right? Like, if your big thing is, I'm not afraid to take bad shots, is that good? Should you be proud of that you make bad decisions?
I'll let Lamar go first, but I have something I want to say to that.
I mean, you gotta at least make the game a little bit easier. But then again, he can only do so much again with his right hand man not going left. By the way, Jaylen Brown, you're going to have to find a way to get them 5 championships and at least impress Taylor Rooks sometime very soon. You got to do that. You got to do it. Get you one, and that be it. But I mean, if you Jason, I mean, I got a feeling once it gets hard. I mean, once it gets a little bit tough for them as far as the series and all that stuff, they probably will have a game that's probably they're gonna revert back to what they've been doing and all that stuff. But again, it goes back to what we were saying. I mean, they've been battle tested enough to to do that. So that
You
pretty
think
much.
what you got, Ken? What you got?
You talked about the mama mentality. I almost forgot about this. We give Carl all this flack, right, for being corny. The corniest thing I've ever seen was Jason Tatum texting Kobe Bryant's phone in a game 7 when he was like, "I got you." That was the corniest thing that any young star I think I've ever seen do. I want to say it was a game 7, was it last year? I think it was a couple of years ago, right after Kobe passed away.
Yeah.
Texted Kobe's phone like, "I got you," then posted it on Instagram. Like, what type of cornball mentality is this? And like you said, they are like, it's not a question of when or if. They will revert to it, which is why I won't pick them. I can't do it. Like, they always get back to taking these terrible shots. Not just him, but as a team. Like, he spearheads it, right? But yeah, they're going to beat Indiana. But these next two teams, whichever one makes it, are going to make them have to take tough shots and live with it. And again, this is why on 2K, I do 1 through 16 playoffs. Because I think, obviously, they won 64, 65 games, had the best record in the league. I think there's at least 2 teams in the West that I would pick to beat them in a playoff series.
Both are 2 of them. Both of the teams in the conference finals.
I think they could. They're going to be favored either team that wins. I think that they would have a better chance at beating Dallas. But would I be surprised if Dallas beat them? Absolutely not. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota beat them, especially if Porzingis is still not healthy.
Okay.
But like, I think Denver was going to beat them. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't have an answer for them.
Did you think OKC could have beat them?
Nah, that's too far.
Too far.
They're too young. They're too young. I won't be that disrespectful.
No, I tell you what I was thinking about was watching the end of that Dallas Oklahoma City series and how far ahead of schedule Oklahoma City is. And we always talk about, teams kind of pulling a get rich quick scheme and trying to just bring in a couple of players and think that's going to do the job. After that 2019 season, when they got rid of Russell Westbrook and Paul George and tore the whole thing to the studs and just rebuilt it really quickly, and they still got all them doggone draft picks.
Use the picks, Sam Presti. Use the picks.
He got to package these picks to get a big dude, somebody to put next to Chet Holmgren, because that was the biggest problem they had in the playoffs. And I knew it wasn't going to be that big of a deal when they played the Pelicans, because no Zion, CJ didn't play well, Brandon Ingram, that just was what it was. But I'm like, if depending on who came out of that next round, I'm like, if they have to play when they play the Clippers or the Mavericks, they're gonna be in a world of trouble, because they're not gonna have nobody that can do nothing with Zubac, Gafford, Lively. Chet can't do it. They need somebody, as my grandfather would say, rest in peace, Benny Goodwin Sr. They got some weight to him. Chet Holmgren, as my granddaddy would say, is light in the ass.
Yeah,
he can do it with nobody. So they need a bigger body, somebody in the mold of a Valanciunas that they can put next to him, or in this case, a Gobert that they can put next to Carl.
Yeah, I mean, that was when we did the podcast right before the playoffs. When the matchups came out, I said whoever wins that Dallas Clippers series is going to the Western Conference Finals. Like, they're going to beat Oklahoma City. I don't care if they have the best record in the West. Like, it's a matchup problem. Either one of those teams was a matchup problem for them. Use the pick, Sam Presti. Like, don't fall into this thing where I used to have a problem with Danny Ainge, where we're just holding on to these draft picks to say that we've got a bunch of draft picks. And the thing that I used to always say on this show with Danny Ainge, when there was a player that wanted to be traded and he got traded somewhere else, it would always come out, oh, we almost traded for him, but the asking price is too much. We almost did this. We almost did that. And you don't have anything to show for you holding these picks, right? Don't just stockpile these picks and then get Gordon Hayward at the deadline. Like, you got a chance to win. You got a chance to win. You have a really good team. But don't fall into this, because I saw the same tweet. The Thunder team is a young team. They'll be back. And I wanted to post that picture of Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden with their arms around each other after the finals.
2012.
You don't know. You just said about Sacramento. They were the 3rd seed last year. They didn't make the playoffs this year. Like, if you have an opportunity to strike it while it's hot, you have to attack. Don't hold back.
I think teams like that, they end up trying to stockpile those picks because like teams like San Antonio or Oklahoma City or Utah or Boston, they have to do that because if we think about it, who wants to be young, black, rich, and in their 20s and spend that time in Boston?
Absolutely.
Like, or be young, black, rich, and spend their time in Salt Lake City, Utah. I knew Donovan Mitchell wasn't going to last there longer after that first contract, right? Yep. Like, those are not teams that are like serious, big, attractive free agent destinations. San Antonio's got a haul of picks. The biggest free agent signing in the history of the San Antonio Spurs is LaMarcus Aldridge, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good player. You know what I'm saying? But I think, at least for me, when teams do that, you're doing it because of that reason. You never see the Lakers or the Knicks or Miami do something like that because they know people are going to come to them. Hell, the Brooklyn Nets ain't even do that because they know people are going to want to come to them. You know what I'm saying? And now that you got me thinking about teams trying to pull a get-rich-quick scheme, the Phoenix Suns. And, oh, my God, Matt Ishbia is running this thing into the ground because that roster, as it was constructed to start the season off, at best, they were going to make it to the second round. At absolute best, at full capacity, everybody fully healthy, the whole deal, they were going to make it to the second round.
Now, that was pushing the level. That was pushing the level a little bit too far. I'll give them that. I'll give you that.
And I'm just saying, for me, they fired Frank Vogel because he lost in the first round. And they hired a man who got fired from the last job because he lost in the first round. What? Like, that's the part of this that don't make no sense to me. Do you go get some fresh new blood? Sure, you should, right? You feel like this team underachieved? Okay, go fire Frank Vogel, right? Because it didn't seem like them dudes was listening to him at all, right? Okay, go fire Frank Vogel. But the biggest problem ain't Frank Vogel, because I don't know who you could have put with that roster that would have gotten any further than they did, right? Like, what coach in the NBA that's like currently in the NBA, do you think Spo or T. Lue could have got them to like the finals?
Not the finals, but I do think that, well, number one, they needed a point guard. That was probably their biggest flaw. But then number two, Frank Vogel is a defensive-minded coach, and you paired him with, some not ideal defensive players. Like, if you're trotting out Josh Okogie and Dorian Finney-Smith as your ideal stoppers on your team, probably not going to go far. But, in saying that, like Minnesota, we're talking about Minnesota. They very well may win the finals. And it could just be one of those cases of a bad matchup in the first round for them. But I do think they could have found a more offensive-minded coach to go if they were going to go with that team, right? And Budenholzer, he's going to space the floor properly. Like, we've seen it everywhere. That Atlanta stretch, they won 60 games. They had the floor space. They had a lot of shooting. Milwaukee, as soon as he comes, that's when the floor opens up. Giannis starts winning MVPs, right? They're gonna play. They're gonna have good offense. But again, if they don't have a guy down the stretch to get their best players in positions where they can make open shots, it's going to affect them, right? And like you said, the team that they had, like, pre the KD trade wasn't a bad team. Like they had made the finals. Next year, I think they had the best record and lost in Game 7 to Dallas at home.
Yep.
In embarrassing fashion. But again, it still wasn't that bad. And then you blow it up like you didn't have to get rid of Chris Paul. Like, yeah, Chris Paul, KD, D-Book, DeAndre Ayton. I didn't think it was that bad.
I mean, my big thing was with them was, okay, do you fire Monty Williams? Okay, probably, right? Because you cannot throw the number 1 pick in the trash can. Like that's just not about to work. I mean, he ain't Kwame Brown. But he ain't Akeem Olajuwon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's not bad.
He's a good NBA center. You got to get more out of that guy, right? So you got to find a guy who can get more out of him. Bradley Beal was never going to be the answer because Bradley Beal, in my opinion, is a lesser version of Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Why do you need a lesser version of Devin Booker and you already got Devin Booker? You don't like that's not what you needed, like at all, right? In next year, if and when they don't do well, because I don't think they'll make it past the second round next year, then what? You know what I'm saying? Then what? Like at that point, do you just decide, all right, we're going to tear it down to the studs, get Booker out of here, get Beal out of here, get what we can for Kevin Durant and move on? And just try to reload with some draft picks? And this just becomes one of those 30 for 30s like, hey, do you remember when Devin Booker and KD and Bradley Beal were on a team and created like the worst, most non-fearsome big three in NBA history? Like, it's going to be that. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's going to be the biggest issue there because, again, going into next year, I don't see that many moves that they can really make because you're paying your top 3 guys $50 million each. And 2 of those guys are over the age of 30, which in KD's case, 35. So now it's like, okay, what do you do? Are you going to try to get some guys at the minimum that can try to come to your team and try to build up that, and try to at least give it another run? Mid-level exception guys, minimum guys, et cetera, et cetera. What are you going to do in this case here if you are them? I'm interested in seeing what did they do, but I can't see a situation where they're going to be even better than where they were this year. I think that they'll probably still be somewhere like 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere like that. Good enough not to make the play-in, but not good enough to be considered a contender unless the matchup is right.
I mean, if we really think about it, man, they were making July 27th, 28th moves on July the 6th. Eric Gordon is a July the 27th free agent signing. He was like their first free agent signing. You know what I'm saying? Like that shows you how little money that they have left, right? Dudes who would probably like in other situations would be like, oh, you're like 7th, 8th guy. You're the ring chasing vet. You're David West going to San Antonio and then taking that year in Golden State, right? Like 1 year vet minimum guys. Because at this point, that's effectively what Eric Gordon is, right? Like they rounded out their starting lineup with who, like, was it Josh Okogie and Nurkic?
Yep.
It was, and then they had that asshole Grayson Allen, right? Like that's who they're relying on right now, right? The roster is
Drew
thin.
Eubanks.
Drew, man, all I remember about Drew Eubanks, he played for the Spurs and pissed me off enough. So I'm like, man, send him to Siberia. Between that and when Isaiah Stewart clocked him, stole off on him earlier this year, and Drew Eubanks gonna call the police. That alone should get him exiled to wherever Jonte Porter is right now. That alone gonna get stole off on. He gonna file a claim like a dork. I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, I think for them it's going to be an interesting offseason because I mean, we just highlighted how many teams in the West will be better. And I think it'll just go down to health. I think what Lamar said is pretty accurate. I don't think there'll be a play-in team. I think they'll be around the 4 or 5 seed, but a lot of things can happen. And so depending on what moves happen in that Western Conference will depend on how I see how they shake up. But in no way do I see them as being a title contender next season. I don't know if there's a move that can be made that will make them a championship contender from May to when the season starts again in October.
I got one more question, and we're gonna get up out of here. Have y'all seen Draymond Green on Inside the NBA? Have y'all seen the rebrand Draymond Green is trying to do?
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yes.
I just want to see, is Draymond going to like act up in this office too? Right? Like Draymond Green, I want to see, what did he do that time, Kim, before the All-Star break when they played the Clippers? You did the hand motions the one time. Was he doing this?
Oh yeah, when he put up the 4 and pretended to stab somebody, or was like
Yes.
mimicking stabbing somebody, like, and he looked deranged, like he was like biting his. I was like, it's like this man needs serious help, and like he's doing all this, like he's talking on there, and he looks so distinguished, and then like October's gonna roll around, and everybody is going to be the B word and the MF, and he's going to step on somebody, and he's going to incite a riot again like he did in Sacramento that one time. This man is literally one of the funniest players I've ever watched because the things that he does on the court are nuts.
Hey, bro, I just was thinking, I saw a tweet. They were like, what if NBA players were pro wrestlers, right? And Draymond Green would be that like mid-card heel.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Sure. Like he would be that mid-card heel that everyone hated. He got the crowd riled up, but you just couldn't beat him. He would be, you know who Draymond Green might have been in another life?
Who?
John Bradshaw Layfield.
Oh, JBL's a good one.
He might have been JBL. He may have been JBL, having to go one-on-one with the Undertaker week in, week out, always finding some slimy way to win and always just inciting the crowd. That would be Draymond. But I see him on Inside the NBA right now, and I'm wondering in the office, like if Ernie don't clean out the microwave, is Draymond gonna run up behind him and choke him?
Dude, the crazy part is Draymond did all this stuff this year and then is gonna contemplate retirement because it was too much. I'm like, wasn't nobody choking you out? like you're not the one in the hostile work environment. It's these foreigners. Like he punched Nurkic, he put Gobert in a headlock, and you want to contemplate retirement?
He Drew Hill Cisco stepped on Sabonis.
Yes. Like, what are we talking about here?
Oh my God. Yo, who would be, I'm gonna ask you this question, kid, Lamar. Who do you think is a bigger menace to human resources? Draymond Green or Vince McMahon?
Oh, it gotta be Vince.
Yeah, Vince. Vince.
Draymond seemed the type to start turning stuff over in the work meeting and calling people the B word and MFing people in the office. Right? Like that's equally as hostile as trying to challenge people to fight at lunch.
Yeah, Vince got to take that nod from me. We read those documents.
Yeah.
No, I read
Vince
I read the outline of the documents. I said, I'm gonna protect my peace.
Sheesh.
Lamar, who you got?
I was about to say Vince. Even though he may own human resources, you can still complain the human resources about him. Or at least take it to somebody to listen.
I'm gonna say this and we're gonna get up out of here. There are 4 or 5 people who are gonna be bunkmates in hell. Okay. Robert, Bill, Vince McMahon, and Sean Puffy Combs. Boy, you talk about a cell block. You talk about a cell block, Jack, of people who don't look, who just need to be over there by themselves. That's it.
No, for real.
That's a dark way to finish, but we here. And that that is a dark way to roll out. No, I gotta y'all saw that Cameron interview before we go. Did y'all Lamar, did you see the Cameron interview?
I need to listen to it in its own entirety, but I kind of saw bits and pieces.
It's only one part that took it over the edge.
And I don't think we can say that on there.
We can't say it, but I was like, I was like, man, this dude does some bad interviews. He seems very irritated. But then when he took a sip, I said, no. No, I thought he was trolling.
Hey, kid, I don't know. That might not be he did a Wilder interview about 15 years ago. Him and Dame Dash did with Bill O'Reilly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
This may top it.
Yeah.
This is gonna be like when they said LeVar Ball can't come back to first take. Like, if you see this fool, like, he can't come back. Don't nobody ever call this fool Domo for nothing. Yep. Nothing. Oh, man. And that is another episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Kennedy Miller, my guy.
What's the word? I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed it today.
Where can the folks find you on the artist formerly known as Twitter?
_ Kennedy Miller _ Again, that's _ Kennedy Miller, Kennedy with a Y and not an I.
People be really spelling it with an I?
Man, it is some weird Kennedys out here.
I mean, I wouldn't even say weird, but I mean, most of them, like, I would think Kennedy with an I as a woman, right?
I've met Kennedy with an I as a woman, Kennedy with an I as a man, too. You'd be surprised.
The more you know. Okay. Lamar Gafford, my guy, Sinla Preps. Let the folks know where they can find you, all your work, all that good stuff, man.
All right. You can find me on that former Bird app at Lamar Gafford, all in one word. Once again, that is Lamar Gafford, all in one word. You can also find my Sinla Preps account at Sinla Preps LLC. We got some good things coming up. We got I still got an all area basketball team to lay out, but we also got baseball, softball, track, all that good stuff. So yeah, it's been fun. I cannot wait to be on the air once again with you guys, because I know NBA Finals time, we're going to get it really cracking around that time as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's T as in tacos, S as in sangria, M as in Minnesota. Follow the show on our official Instagram page at _ the Game Plan Podcast. Again, on Instagram at _ the Game Plan Podcast. Wherever you're listening and watching, however you're listening and watching, we thank you guys so much for listening and for watching. For Kennedy Miller and Lamar Gafford, my name is Alex Goodwin. This has been the Game Plan Podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.